Welcome back, everyone. This is the Get Paid to Live podcast, and I'm one of your hosts, Iffy.
You're Shaw.
I'm Shaw, and this is Iffy. No, I'm one of the hosts, Iffy. This is my fiance and co-host, Shaw, and we're excited to have another sit down again and chat.
Are we really excited? What episode is this?
Intern, you need some chapstick. Guys, let us know if you can see Shawnee's chapped lips.
That'll be our Spotify poll.
That's going to be the poll. Did you see Shawnee's chapped lips?
I was listening to this in the car. I didn't see.
We've had a busy week. I got sick.
Yeah.
You're just
roller coaster ride.
You're on a roller coaster ride of entrepreneurship.
Yeah. It's wild. Navigating contract negotiations with a new client. And it was like this roller coaster ride. One thing I've learned in these past 6 or 7 months of doing this is that you can't take anyone seriously until you sign a contract.
Yeah.
And so that's been one big lesson. However, there was this client that I connected with last week, but I just had a good feeling about them. So I was getting excited, but constantly having to remind myself that it's not said and done until they sign the contract. So yeah. I had to keep reminding myself that, but then they kind of went quiet for a couple of days. And I thought it was yet again another one of these situations where I got excited, but then it doesn't actually go through. So I got excited prematurely. But then they woke up again and they were still like motivated and excited to start working together. But then there was some like miscommunication on terms. And so there was like a brief back and forth, like contract negotiations. And then now we're on the same page, but still we haven't signed the contract. So maybe I'm even saying all of this prematurely. But
we'll cut it out if it.
Yeah. But it feels like we're gonna be working together soon, and just giving me a lot of ideas for the business. Historically, I've been more of like hands-on keyboard contractor kind of guy, but talking to just all the interactions I've had with potential clients the past 6 months, it's kind of like waking me up to like, well, even though that's what I did in the past, that's not necessarily what people are asking for right now. And it sounds like people, they need more like a project manager to kind of help them figure out what they need to build, not necessarily help them build something predefined. Like lots of up and downs this past week on the consulting side of things. And
potentially new clients.
Yeah, and potentially locking down new client, biggest client to date.
I know. This will be, I think that's what makes you excited prematurely,
right?
Is that like not only have you like not done this before, like consulting before, it's like the biggest one you've ever had. And we said in our last episode, I think, or one of our last episodes, like we are in our freshman year of entrepreneurship. So there's a lot of firsts. Like we're learning a lot of new skills and we haven't been through things before. So I feel like everything is just kind of like, and when your day to day is such a emotional, roller coaster, these wins, you're holding on to them for dear life because you don't have a lot going on. And like
it's mostly losses and failures.
It's mostly failures, and I sometimes you just want to protect yourself from even thinking about getting excited about these things because you're just like, I can't handle another loss. Like I already have enough.
Right.
So yeah. And honestly, I think just I was sick this past week, so I think I'm just like tired from that. And I'm like in the process of launching my new brand, Sans Raison.
Wow.
And I'm very nervous about how it's going to turn out.
Yet another failure in a long
exactly.
line of failures.
I don't know if it could be another failure, but I'm really excited about what it could be. And this month is going to be the month of like actually putting things out, like putting things out on socials, putting things out in the world, sending the product to people.
And by the time this podcast is out, it's probably already going to be launched.
I know. I hope so. I'm documenting the whole process. There's a lot of promo behind it, and like I feel like admin, like getting the website ready, just, I don't know, just like every like email and all this other stuff. So it's just like a lot of little things, which honestly are not even the biggest part. The biggest, obstacle is the emotional side, Sure. So I think that's honestly, sums it up. Like,
it's never doing the work. That's the hard part. It's just the emotional, navigating the emotions. I think we were talking about this earlier this week. Like, it's like 50% the skills to do it, and the other 50% is just like the emotional fortitude to actually like dive in and like do it. Like, even if you did something like the same exact thing in like a corporate context, or you've done something in the past, the idea of doing it on your own, there are just so many, even though you have the skills, you have the skills. Sometimes there is that uncertainty, that self-doubt, that imposter syndrome,
that your boss or the owner or the CEO of the company that you used to work for, they take on that risk.
They take on that uncertainty.
Right. But now it's in you. And I think that's really the like dance or the art of being an entrepreneur, is like handling both. Like, I'm having to do the physical work, kind of, upskill, but I'm also having to upskill emotionally, mentally, and that requires you to change a lot of things in your life, which is why you see like entrepreneurs that have these crazy routines, because they're dealing with so much emotional baggage that they have to, And this
was another thing we were talking about this week. It's like, you have to get your mind right if you want to be an entrepreneur, and if you don't have your mind right, it's gonna get right.
It'll make it,
because there's no other way you can survive. You know, if you have like, emotional baggage, you got like bad habits, like a bad relationship with negative emotions or different things in your life, that stuff is quickly gonna have to get fixed. So you have enough emotional bandwidth to deal with the problems that you're navigating in your business.
I know. I feel like the only thing that really helps, or not the only thing, one of the things that help a lot is like the community. Just like community,
for sure.
Like, I think that's the only thing that's been able to like keep me going. Like a comment here or there on a YouTube video, or like a comment on TikTok, or even just like talking to another fellow entrepreneur or friend about this stuff. It makes you feel like, okay, like I have somebody in my corner, like I have something going on, because when you're managing the emotions and the work by yourself, the whole time you're like, is this gonna fail? Is this gonna work? Is this gonna work? But if you have somebody who has like some kind of belief in you, or some kind of belief in what you're doing, you're like, okay, I might feel like this, but at least I know one other person who feels like this is going somewhere.
It's just like a small bit of social support. And something that's happened a few times this week is just like getting on calls with people from the data entrepreneurs, like people from the community. And that is always so like invigorating and inspiring, and because you like simultaneously express these negative emotions, like these uncertainties that you're feeling, but you're also getting like positive feedback from people who are on a similar journey. That social support is so powerful. Like, that is ultimately, I would say that's a big reason why the emotional side of things is so hard, is because you're doing it alone. But if you just have a team, like even like a small team, like and they don't even have to be like working with you, they can just be like people doing similar things that you connect with here and there, or just like good friends that understand what it means to like run a business and start a business. That also helps tremendously,
so much, which is why we're like happy to have our small community here. And I would love, like, my dream would be to see people in the Get Paid to Live community like supporting each other and helping each other through this, because it's like it's hard, and we're tired. But at the same time, I want to bring something up because I think it's just funny. Like, at the same time, I feel like we've gotten a few comments from our mothers about like how we're doing, how we're crazy, how we feel like we may not seem like we're doing too well. And one interesting insight that I've had recently is just that, like, I could totally see how from an outside perspective, you know, we're financially unstable. We're doing things that may or may not work. We're working all the time. We probably don't look happy when we see people. And I can see how from like an outside perspective, it's kind of like somebody with a toxic relationship and you're like, are you doing okay? And I could see how it looks that way. But at the same time, when we're doing the work, I feel like that's when we're most alive.
Right.
So
it feels good when you do the work.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good when you're not
doing the work.
And when you're interacting with people that aren't on a similar journey, like your mother, our mothers, they're just, and a lot of times, like my mom will call me when I'm in the middle of something.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I'm like trying to work and it's like a distraction, and also like, or if it's like free time or something like that. Free time is dangerous because that's when the doubt and uncertainty starts. Oh my God,
it's the worst. And
that's when people see you.
No, and that's exactly, like, I could do a whole episode on this, like, because it's been happening so much recently. Not so much, but it's been happening more recently because there's everybody and their mother is having an event this quarter. Like, we have a baby shower today where you have weddings. Like, I just came back from a wedding. We have another friend who's having an engagement party. Like, so I don't know why this quarter is just like very full of events, but I think I've been noticing when I'm not in my bubble, and I like to call our house and my routine like our little bubble, because we're just doing, like, all day is dedicated to this craft. Like, yeah, we're working out, or sometimes we're having a coffee chat, or sometimes we're taking a walk, but all of that is to fuel our creativity and our energy and stamina for what we're doing. Because I mean, he's a lot more optimized than me, but I basically am working from when I wake up to when I go to sleep. Like, everything I'm doing, even if it's not like physical sitting down writing a script or whatever, it's supporting the work that I do. So it's basically from morning
break or something.
Totally, like editing, writing, building this company, like everything is for my career right now. The career I'm building is dependent on how much work I put in. Yeah. Right.
What you put in is what you get.
What you get. And so when I'm not putting in work, there's just this energy, this anxiety sitting around. Yeah. So it's uncomfortable. And all I can do when I'm not in my zone, where I have my workout materials, I have my computer, I have all the things that I need, I'm just left to sit with that. And I can either doom scroll or just talk to people, but like nothing is as interesting as what I want to be doing all day. And so I can see how I don't look as engaged, or I'm not as interested or excited when I'm not at work. And so I think to my mom, she's like, you're crazy, like all you guys do is work and whatever. And it's just like, and I think she said something like, you need to like let yourself free, like out of your schedule. And I was just like, but my schedule makes me feel free. Like, this is what makes me feel like myself. Like, and I think no one sees that because we're in this house alone doing our work. But when we are in this element, like, I mean, not all the time. Like, of course, I have meltdowns every week. That doesn't change. But like, generally during the workday, we are energized and fulfilled and happy. And I just think people don't see that part. So, I don't know. I feel like if you are going through something similar where I actually don't know if people are going through something similar, because I mean, again, we lack a lot of like entrepreneur friends in ways. So I don't know exactly what everyone's going through, but I can only imagine, like, this is how I feel all the time. So I can only imagine other people feel this way. But I think I noticed that right now, work, my career, the businesses I'm building are my dopamine hits. And that's not necessarily common. I think even for me a few years ago, work was kind of like, let's get away from that. Let's hang out. Let's go on a vacation. Like, let's not think about work. But now this is all I want to think about. And actually play is harder. Like, you know what? I did hear there was this guy on YouTube. He's a big YouTuber. I can't remember his name. I think it's Gabe something. He's like one of those productivity guys. Okay. He was saying how the weekends are actually are not fun
like
for
why
him.
he likes living a
boring life. Yeah, he had a video that's a really fun, like, that video basically sums up what we're talking about. He said the weekends are actually harder for him because it gets him off of his routine that he likes. And I think people are not used to liking Monday through Friday. But we intentionally designed our lives so it's like Monday through Friday feels like the vacation. And now we're actually seeing how that plays out. And it's strange. It's different, you know? So.
And I think in another way, when the weekend looks so different than the weekdays, it makes the transition so much harder. Like Mondays are always the worst day in the world. There's like too much work to do. Nothing's going right. Everything's broken. Everything's on fire.
We were saying this because Monday is you're transitioning from the routine that you don't typically do. Because on the weekends we might have plans or we have to adjust the routine a little bit. If we don't have plans, we usually kind of stick to our own thing. And Monday, I don't feel like it's as bad. But when we do other things, Monday is very hard. And not only is it hard because we're switching back into this routine that is a high performance routine, like it requires a certain version of you that has to be on it. So Sunday you and Monday you is struggling because you're not that version yet. And then all the work that you have to do is like sitting in front of you. None of it is done yet, or it's in progress.
Right.
And so I was saying, like, now that work is my dopamine hit and like my editing and my business and like talking to people who are like me, which these are all great things, they just take so much effort to get to. Like it takes a lot of work. It's not like a quick like Netflix, Uber
McDonald's,
Eats kind of dopamine hit. I have to work really hard to get even like a chance of that. Like editing a YouTube video is the perfect example. It takes me 8 to 10 hours to edit one video. Okay. So I have to wait 8 to 10 hours plus YouTube doing its algorithm thing for me to see any feedback on this thing that I've been working on.
And most videos
they don't do great. So it's just like, I have to, like, I'm playing the slot, but like in slow-mo. And so whenever people are like, oh, let's do this, or let's, you know, have time to do this or whatever, and like basically requires me to get out of my routine, I'm like, no, because it's already going to take me 8 to 10 days to get one dopamine hit. I can't have that be delayed any day longer. And I think this ironically leads to kind of what we're talking about today, is just like how to say like, no, like, no, I can't, I'm sorry. Like, and that used to be really, really hard, but realizing how much effort it takes me just to get one hit, or I sound like a drug addict, how much effort it takes me to get even one reward.
Right.
I'm like, I'm not even saying no to be mean or I'm shy right now. I'm just like, I can't. I'm sorry. Right. Like, look at my situation. I can't, you know? Right. It's obvious.
I think that's been like my approach to it. It's like, I don't even put myself in a situation where I have to say no, because I'll just have I'll just design the system in a way that people don't even ask me things like that. They don't even have the opportunity
Give
to
me an
ask
example.
me something that don't align. Well, I mean, one of the simplest things is, you know, I think it's important to kind of connect with, because a lot of people that consume my content, they're like students, or they're people that are trying to get to where I'm at now. Like maybe they're in grad school, maybe they're trying to get into freelancing, you know, whatever it might be. And I think it's important to have those conversations. But instead of like people reaching out to me and me having to tell them no, like I don't have time for that or something like that, I have a 2-hour block on Tuesdays and Thursdays at the end of the day, like reserved for what I call office hours. So anytime someone reaches out to me for that, it's like I don't have to say no to them. I can basically say yes, and I send them office hours, but it's kind of constrained to when we can have like that conversation. So it's, in a way, it's saying yes, but it's also saying no in a way that aligns with what I'm trying to do. Another thing is I get a lot of like brands reaching out to me. Sometimes it's a real person, but most times it's just like a bot that like uses the YouTube API to scrape data or whatever, or they use some like automated system to reach out. And I just don't respond to those emails. And it's a great filter because if someone is serious, they'll follow up if I don't respond to the first
if they're not a bot.
If they're not a bot. And then if they like reach out a few times and like really make an effort to get my attention, then I'll respond. And then a lot of times I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
And I just say I can't commit to something like that right now.
Yeah.
And that's just the way I've been saying no in this context.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. Like I learned a lot of saying no from you, because I just would always observe how Shaheen would just like gracefully not be involved in things he doesn't want to be involved in, and like gracefully. And I just found that so hard because like I tended to get is tended a word? Yeah. I tended to get like defensive and like angry almost.
Because people are like trying to take something from
right.
you and take your time.
Exactly. I would like, my number one value is freedom. We talked about values in our first episode, which I highly recommend. I think it's one of the most important exercises you can do in your life. But my whole life it's been that like I wanted my freedom. I always kind of hated having something in my way. And so I have I would say like a decently large family, and I have like
three siblings,
two parents. I have like friends, and in college like I was very active, and there was a point in my life where like being full and having events just seemed like something you had to do. Like, and it's necessary. Don't get me wrong. If you find yourself saying no too much, starting to say yes makes more sense. And that's when I was growing up, I needed to say yes more because I wanted to try things. But then there became a point where I was getting so used to having things in my calendar and saying yes that I was just like, oh my God, I'm so overbooked and I don't even want to do these things. I just felt like I had to do these things. And this quarter specifically, I have been like, if it does not align 1,000%, I call it my hell yes test. I'm not doing it. And I'm trying to make room for newer things. And a lot of times you have to say no because you need to eliminate the old and make room for the new. And that's what I'm trying to do right now. So, but generally right now, I'm kind of saying no to a lot of things that don't feel like they're aligning with my goals right now, which are my business, my content, and, just like my health in general. So if it doesn't support those things, it's a no. And I used to get really like agitated, but I think the more I defined what was important to me and why and what it requires, like seeing it physically on my calendar, it just made that like kind of obvious to me. And then the more obvious it is to you, the more people are going to be like, oh, that's not 100% obvious to me, but it seems like it's obvious to her. So I'm going to, you know what I mean? Like, because how people would approach you about it, like my favorite line from Shaheen is, I have to wake up in the morning. So he would always say that to people.
Oh, I have to wake up tomorrow.
I have to wake up tomorrow. Sorry. Yeah. And
I didn't think of it like that. Because it
sounded so obvious to you. Obvious. That's what I said.
But it's an obvious thing. You have to wake up in the morning.
Okay, well, let me explain what that means. Okay, because I thought it was so. I know what he's talking about because I'm dating him, and like not dating him. I mean, at the time, like we were boyfriend and girlfriend. I was dating him, so I knew what that meant. He wakes up very early. And right now, it's 4:45 a.m. It used to be 5.
5.
It's somewhere between 5:30, something like that. And we'd be out like 7, 8. And so he'd be like trying to wrap it up by like 8:30. And everyone's like, oh, why not? Like, why can't you stay? Whatever. And he'd be like, I have to wake up in the morning or I have to wake up tomorrow. And I just thought that was funny. So I'm like, that just sounds like, yeah, so do I. Like, you know what I mean? But what he's saying is I have to get up early. So there's no way I can stay past this time. And I think you said that so often, no matter if somebody understood you or not, just like your tone, your demeanor, people understood that there's something important in the morning. So I can't keep disturbing that. And what's so funny is like now that I'm really practicing my boundaries, people now they'll tell me without me saying anything, and I feel like I should correct them, but I'm like, maybe I shouldn't. They're like, I know you're really busy. People have said that my whole life because I do have like a very systematic thing with my planner, and like I like to be very structured. But specifically now, even though I'm telling people and I'm broadcasting how unemployed I am, people like go out of their way to say, I know you're really busy, or like, it seems like you're really busy, or like whatever. Like they'll say these things. And I want to be like, no, I mean, I think it's true. I am very busy, but I don't know. Like, I know I'm busy, but for some reason, because I'm just doing all the things I like doing, it doesn't seem like I'm busy. It just seems like I'm living my life.
And another thing is like, if something is a hell yes and it aligns,
Yeah.
like you can make it work.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a matter of prioritization.
Exactly. See, that's what I'm saying, because I know that. Because I'm like, I don't really believe in like, I think anyone with a brain will tell you like busy is obviously subjective, and like, you know, it just depends on what you care about, what you value. And to me, I guess I am busy in that sense because I'm doing things that matter to me.
Yeah, and then when you're telling me about the San like launch plan and the launch like the launch campaign, I was like, this is a lot of work.
I know. I've also gotten that too.
On top of the like content you're making, on top of the podcast, it's like, yeah, you're very busy.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't like see it that way. Look, I'll probably fail at half of completing all of those. Maybe not. I don't know. But like, I hope not. But I don't see it necessarily like, oh, I'm so busy. Because when I was working corporate and I had all these events, again, things I didn't want to be doing, even though I thought at the time I wanted to be doing them, I don't think deep down they felt like meaningful. So that's why I felt like I was busy, like all these things. I don't have any time to myself, but my whole day is to myself. Like I get to do what I want to do every single day. I am intentionally booked, I guess you could call it. So when people are like, oh, when can we chat? I'm like, I have an opening in the next few weeks. And I don't mean it in that way. It's just like, literally, this is not a priority.
But it's kind of like with my office hours. It's like you have predefined times for those types of chats.
Exactly.
Like I also like I have like typically if people want to meet up for coffee, it's typically Saturday or Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
And then sometimes like those things are already blocked.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So it kind of goes back to this idea. It's like you just set things up
for success.
Exactly. So like people, when those things come in, it's almost like you don't have to make a decision. It's like a lookup. It's like, oh, let me look at the next available slots for that. It's like, okay, the next one is this time. It's like, does that work for you? So it's like, you know, because you also don't want to, you know, just be so like closed-minded. And I mean, certain things, like, it's just like, I don't have time. Like if my friends are like, we want to go to Vegas next month or something like that. It's like, I just can't do that.
That doesn't make any sense.
You know,
right now.
I just can't do that. Yeah. But if someone reaches out, like just this week, someone was like, that I did research with, actually 2 people I did research with back in grad school. They're like, hey, can we chat? I want to like talk about like freelance content creation. I want to talk about like career stuff. And it's like, yeah, like I'm happy to do that. It's just like there's a process for all that.
Exactly. Okay, so I want to talk about 2 things. I want to talk about how like I might have like intuitively known this, but I never like practice it. But now I feel like with my new life and this dream life I'm really trying to create, that's very intentional, I have to rank the priorities. Yeah. And I know that sounds so obvious, but like physically doing it is a whole other thing. Like if somebody approached me like, hey, I want to talk about content, or I want your advice or whatever. Like I love talking about that. I love doing that stuff. But I know it's not as important as me editing this video, or not as important as me working on my newsletter for my brand. Yeah. And so I have to kind of set those systems up so that it matches the level of priority. And so for me, an example of that has been this quarter, I'm not taking more than 1 social obligation a week. There's exceptions. Like we have a baby shower today. I technically already had my social obligation of the week. And social obligations can be like a meeting that's longer than like 30 minutes, or
like a 90-minute coffee
like
chat,
a coffee chat, or a hangout, or a meetup. Like I'm not doing more than 1 a week, and I'm talking Monday through Sunday, because I realize for me, I like those things. They're really fun, but I cannot bring my best energy to that and bring my best energy to my content and bring my best energy to my brand. Like something's got to give. Yeah. And I think we need to normalize like sprints. Like this is kind of off topic, but we were talking about this the other day. Like we as a society think things need to go on forever. Yeah. Like and this can be in terms of work, this can be in terms of social obligations, or relationships. Like for example, for a job, like I don't think people should be just working for the rest of their life. Like why do we only assign retirement for like after a certain age? Again, it's like this idea of perpetuity. Like you can only, after you retire, you're retired forever. And it's like, why don't we just have sprints or seasons of things? Like I work this season, I don't work this season. I work really hard for the season so I can have the next 2 seasons off. It like sports or school. I feel like they do it right. Like You play sometimes, you don't play. You
Yep.
study sometimes, you don't study. And I feel like it could be the same thing with how you say no and yes to things. Like this is a season where you just say no, and this is a season where you say yes, and it's like you're just naturally working with the balance of life.
Sure.
You know,
and then the no's don't become like no's forever.
Exactly.
It's like it's a no right now.
It's just learning how to prioritize for certain things in your life, and I think that's why I feel like business is a natural just proxy for this, because like in business there are natural seasons. Like you're really busy this season, or if you're in retail, like Valentine's Day and Christmas, and like those are the big seasons. So you work up until that point, and it requires you as a CEO or entrepreneur or whatever to make decisions based on that season. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's what we should take into account here. And then the second point I wanted to bring up was this requires you, like, it sounds so obvious, but in practice, so different. This requires you, if you want to have these like if you want to have these seasons of your life, if you want to have balance, if you want to be able to bring your best energy to a certain season of your life, it requires you to make decisions. Like you have to. And I think it feels awkward when you're doing it because people don't do it. Like people don't do it. Like I feel like I get pushback, if anything, for like having my schedule. You've gotten pushback for having your schedule because it's people are observing someone making a decision and it's like uncomfortable for them. I feel like it is. Like when we look at Elon Musk's calendar, if you've ever heard about it, it's
like in 15-minute blocks.
15-minute blocks and stuff. I don't know about all that. I'm just saying, like, that's his version of making decisions. You can have your own version of making decisions, but I think people get really uncomfortable. They're like, oh, you got a schedule. Oh, you have a this, or, oh, you're busy, you know? Right, and it's just like, why is that weird? Yeah. Like, why is it weird to be intentional about your life and care about
your time and your attention?
Yeah. Like,
because that's the most valuable thing you have. People will have like an accountant or like a budget for their money. Thank you. But they don't have that for their time.
For their time.
Or their attention.
Your time is all you have. Like that is literally the only, and that's a concept, but your present moment, even if you want to think about it that way, that's all you have. Yeah. Why would it not be intentional to what you want out of life? And your time is limited. Like, I just can't understand how that's not like everybody's main priority is like maximizing their time. But I feel like it's weird or like looked at strange to be very intentional about that and decisive about it. Like, I don't want to do this, or I do want to do this. And it's a yes, no in between. Not like I am obligated to, I feel like I have to, this is what other people do. Like, I do think while you're learning and growing up, that's a normal thing to you know, practice with your time, see how you like playing around with it. But I feel like as you start to get older and things become more finite, even your health or, you know, your attention or the space in your brain, like these things are not forever. And so why would you not figure out what it is that you want to do with all of that time? And like right now, every hour of my day is basically decided beforehand. And I plan like once a week. I've seen people plan every day or whatever. Like however you're doing it, I think it's important to be decisive and make decisions. And what I mean by that, making decisions, and I say this a lot of times, I said on my TikTok before, like making decisions, it's one of those things that sound like, oh yeah, like I do that. Like, I know I have, but when you really think about it, sometimes you don't. You let other people make the decision for you, or you let society make the decision for you. I mean, to an extent, we've all done that with school, with corporate or jobs or managers or even relationships. Like we're letting people make decisions for us, but it's our life. Like you can always let somebody make a decision for you. But it's still your life. And when you don't make a decision, somebody else will. So if I don't decide what I'm going to do with my time on Monday at 2 p.m., if somebody else comes in the picture and it's just like, hey, I need your help with this, whatever, I'm going to be like, oh, I have nothing to do. So sure. And okay, fair. That happens 1 time, 2 times, but that could be something that happens over the course of 6 months. And then every whatever date and time is always being dedicated to someone else that's not me. And I have no idea why I'm doing it for this person. So I just feel like that's like a silly example, but if you look at your schedule and really analyze it, you'll be shocked at how many hours of your time are given to things that you're not really sure why you're doing it. Like, or it's like tied to an insecurity.
Right.
Or,
and I think this ultimately all just goes back to people not having a clear idea of what they want, like what their goals are and what their values are. Because when you don't have those things, you have no lens, you have no framework to make those types of decisions.
Exactly.
You have
makes it harder.
Yeah, you have no foundation to know what's a priority and what's not a priority because there's no context for it. But if you have a goal and you have a plan to achieve that goal, you can use that to evaluate whether this obligation is aligned with that goal, with that path toward it, or not.
Yeah, I feel like this quarter is the first time in my life, honestly, that I've been this detailed and strict about it, because I feel like last year we were developing that foundation. We were developing that vision, like what is important to us, what do we want, how do we want our dream life to look like. And I'm a big fan of using your dream life as the foundation.
As the North Star.
As the North Star, as your blueprint. Hint, hint. Sans raison.
Wow.
Product drop.
But free product drop.
Free product drop. I can't wait to share it with people if anyone cares. But anyway, I feel like that should be the foundation. So last year, I feel like we were developing that for real. Because I know you and I have always like wanted to do something bigger in our life, but there was always something else in the way, like college or work or school or whatever. And so now, like, I feel like last year was the first year we were like on our own, no obligations necessarily, and the ones that we did have, our jobs, we cut them off. And then we were like, what do we want, and we started doing our quarterly goals. We started like really making the time to think about them. And then now I feel like it's like, okay, it's not crystal clear, but it's pretty clear. Does this make me feel good? Does this not make me feel good? Does this align with my vision? Does it not align with my vision? And if it does not, it's out of the calendar, like period. And I feel like this is the first time in my life where I've done that like strictly. And it's so fascinating to me because I feel like it was very simple, and this is kind of all it took, and I feel way more at peace. It's not like I was in chaos last year or anything, but I just feel so much more at peace with myself because I'm like, I'm not doing things that don't matter to me. That's a whole new level of living when you're doing things that only matter to you, or when you're only doing things that matter to you. That's a whole new level of living because it's like, you don't have noise. There's no noise or distractions in your life. Like, you're just focused, and it's hard. You're still going to have internal drama that doesn't end.
There's the emotional roller coaster.
That will be there, but you'll realize how much more drama you had layered in your life with all these things you were saying yes to. I can't even believe how much stuff I used to do.
But the difference is the drama, the emotional roller coaster, the hard stuff. It's all for a reason. It's all to get to your goal, as opposed to you have all this hard stuff for no reason.
It's going nowhere. To me, like, now the drama is going towards a singular direction, and it's like the hurt that helps. It's like it actually turns into something useful instead of it just kind of being wasted energy, like just particles that are going nowhere. Right now, it's like if I have the drama over my business or if I have drama over content, I'm learning. I'm like becoming a better creator. I'm becoming a better entrepreneur. I can help people now. I can give them advice. Like, this is all stuff that's working towards my goal, even if it's negative. But before, like a wasted weekend, spending 5 hours chatting about things I don't care about, or drinking all the time, like just overeating and spending a lot of money, and none of these things are bad, and I think they're fun, like in moderation. It's just that, like, when it's every weekend, it loses its meaning. It loses its fun. Or every day. I mean, like, it no longer has the effect. And now our standards are so low that even Chipotle is like, wow. That was really good. And so it's once a month. And it's like, going back to like the whole making decisions thing. I say that, like, poor people don't make decisions, and I feel like that's oftentimes what keeps them poor. That could be literally like through budgeting or financial literacy or whatever, but that could like even be like a metaphorical thing. Like you are not taking control of your life, so you're left with the scraps. Like also poor can be whatever you want it to be. That could be spiritually. It's not just money. But I feel like rich people, I'm not going to speak for all, but the people who have wealth or wealth in other ways, in their health and their mindset, whatever, they made a decision to be that way. It's not just going to happen random out of nowhere. And I think that's what I see amongst the people who are either poor or middle class. Again, this is metaphorical, whatever you want that to mean. And the people who are wealthy is that the ones down here or in that middle class poor range, they are either unsure of the direction they want to go in, or they're too scared to take the leap, even though they know what they should do. Yeah. And one thing I say is like, it's okay to not know what exactly to do, but it's not okay to do something you know you shouldn't do. Right. And I feel like that's a version of you not being decisive about your life and allowing it to just flow with whatever's going on. Yeah. And you don't want that. There's a lot of things in the world that are not favorable to your goals. And you're just kind of, you're letting it just flow. An example of this could be, you don't want to use your attention and your brain and your creativity to create the thing that you don't see, but you really want. And you'd rather give that to your TikTok feed, Instagram feed every day, right? Like for hours scrolling every day. And you'd rather give that to the friends that you don't like. You'd rather give that to the relationship that's draining you or the job that you hate. Like that's you making, it's like you're not making a decision for what you want. So therefore you are making a decision about what you don't want. And you're saying yes to what you don't want and no to what you do want. You know,
that's really what motivates me. Because like that's the mission of my LLC, is to unlock human potential. And it's not even like that's putting it in like a positive frame, but for me, I'm more motivated by the negative frame, which is like waste is something that really bothers me. And the worst thing you can waste is a human being. And so this, like I was telling you this past week, like something David Goggins says is that the human mind is the deadliest weapon known to man. And everyone has this weapon, but almost no one is using it to its full potential. And that is what bothers me. Like, what would the world look like
if we were using our brain?
If we were using our full potential, like our full capacity. And that's what I'm trying to like get out of people. You know what I mean? Because I've kind of seen flashes of that in my own life. You know, in like particular moments, like when I was telling you when I was going through like all the anxiety stuff, like I had this moment. I guess I can just tell the story. Like, if you didn't see the previous episode, I took LSD with my friends on my 18th birthday, and it was a great time until it wasn't. And I developed like some form of like post-traumatic stress disorder where I was getting like panic attacks like multiple times a day. So I was triggered by a lot of things. Like the panic attacks were triggered by a lot of things, but especially the letters LSD. So one day I was on Reddit on my computer, and I like opened up like just some random like thread on Reddit, and within like not even half a second, like instantaneously, right when the screen loaded, my attention like jumped halfway down the screen, and I just see the letters LSD. And that was just like a shocking moment, because it's like not even a search function on a computer works that fast. Like my brain just jumped to these letters, and it's like amazing. Like that's like you're capable of much more than you realize. But it was also terrifying because like this weapon was pointed at me. Like it wasn't pointed at what I was trying to do. Like it was being used against me. And so like since that moment, I've been trying to like harness that potential, that capacity of the mind, because I realized like how powerful it is. And it's not just me. Everyone has a brain. Everyone has this mind. And the mind is what got us to the moon. The mind is what created the iPhone. The mind is what created all the amazing things that we see in our lives.
Yeah, it like this concept just reminded me of like what you were saying, like how we're not maximizing our full potential. It reminded me of something my dear friend and one of our first podcast guest, Deborah, she said to me, and she's like, I believe this is the quote. She said it to me when we were in a coffee shop in Paris. She was like, do nothing at the cost of alignment. And
that's good.
And I just like, it really just like baked in the lessons, because we've been thinking about this for a while. Just like every time we do something that's misaligned, or every time we're not maximizing our potential, we feel it.
Yeah.
We feel the hurt.
Yeah.
And I think that just like, it's like, yes, that's so true. Like nothing is worth it to let that part of you go. It's not worth it. And I feel like it's tempting in a lot of situations to not use your brain. Like it's very tempting. It's tempting to scroll. It's tempting to not make a choice because you can't fail, you know? Like it's tempting to just drift and be whoever. It's easier to take the checklist. Going back to our first episode, the checklist of what people give you, but you will feel the cost at some point. And it could even be a daily thing where you just feel this dread, you just feel this emptiness, you just feel this void because you're not taking control of your life. And I think that's by design. I don't think we're supposed to be numb and just checklisting our way through life. I think we're supposed to put effort. We're supposed to work hard.
Right.
We're supposed to try to figure out what's in our brain and use it. Like that's what we were, like, I feel like that's what we were designed for, you know, like look at all the advancements we've made as a society. Like that came from a drive that we all have to keep going higher, higher, higher.
Yeah.
Like that's what we crave, but we're trying to go higher in how many more videos can I scroll, or how many more Uber Eats can I order this week? It's like going in the wrong direction. And it's like, use that power that your brain has towards what you want. Like that would blow your mind. Like the same thing you saw on the screen, but in something that favors you, that helps you towards your dream life. Like you creating, like, and that's why I find the dream life concept so fascinating. Like we have that power that, you know, your brain did, and just like that, we could put that to our dreams and make that a reality just like that with, I mean, not like just like that, but you know, over time and create what we want. And it's like, I think, going back to what you said a little bit earlier about like, you're driven by the negative. If the positive doesn't drive you, just kind of like mentally note how negative it feels to be in the situation you're in right now. I think that's very motivating. Like Alex Hormozy says that all the time. Like you have to hate something about your current situation for you to like want better, to go out of your way, because it's uncomfortable to go out of your way and maximize your potential. It's uncomfortable to be aligned or like figure out how to be aligned, you know? But if you think about the cost, if you think about the negative emotion, if you think about the situation, like, do you want to live like this forever? Could you live like this forever?
Or would you want your kids to live like this? I think that's a more powerful frame for people too.
That's a good one. Like,
because they're going to learn from you.
Don't get me started. Yeah. Like, would you want your kid, like this, imagine this fresh, innocent baby, this happy, hopeful child, and within the next few days, they start living like you and feeling exactly how you feel right now. Would you be happy about that? No, like we want the best for our kids. We want the best for and you should want the best for yourself. You're someone's kid. Like you're someone's kid. Like do something with that life that you have. It's precious. You never know what you could do with it. And I'm not encouraging people to hate their life. There are things you can be grateful for. But I feel like if you're even watching this podcast, you know there's something for you. You know there's something better for you. And you need to actively use whatever you can to get to the next step. Whatever you got. And if that, like for me, I just kept seeing people who were aligned, living in their energy, just flowing through life. And I was just like, I can get that. I can do that. And I didn't know what alignment and all these things were at the time. I had no idea where to go next, but I just knew I didn't want this. I knew I couldn't just keep sitting here and watching people live a life that like, why couldn't I have that too? Mm-hmm. And that's what drove me to do it. It was the negative side about it, the things I hated about my life mm-hmm. that made me want to become this person that I am today. And it's 100% worth it, 1,000% worth it. Like, just seeing, it's kind of like that movie Limitless, but in a positive direction. Like mm-hmm. seeing what your brain can do. Yeah. You're like, oh, that's all it took for me to just to start. Like, all I had to do was just get started. Mm-hmm. You're going to wow yourself. So I really feel like there's no downside to finding kind of like a villain in your life, mm-hmm. like villainizing something and being like, I'm done with that. Like, I'm moving on. Yeah. Because it's just not worth, like, when you see, now that I'm in this newer echelon, I may not be at the like dream, but I'm getting pretty close. Like, this is my life is what I want it to be. Yeah.
You just got to figure out how to make money,
get paid. That's why we're doing this podcast.
You're living.
I'm living and I'm getting paid. Right. But it's like, now that I'm getting here, I look back at this older version of me. I'm like, man, like, I had back pains. I was always tired. I didn't have energy. I was kind of like, overindulging a lot, like shopping a lot, eating a lot, and just I was going about it in the wrong ways. Like, I wanted the same thing, but I was going about it in the wrong ways, and it was costing me a lot of time, energy with clients I didn't align with. Like, it was costing me. And now I have those memories stored in my brain. So anytime something is misaligned or is pointing in that direction, I'm like, it may sound tempting, but this is where it leads you.
I think people tend to overvalue money and they completely disregard these other things. They disregard like their emotional well-being, their health, their time, their attention, their relationships. And they will give up all of that stuff for a steady paycheck. It's like, well, no. What if you just kind of reshuffled the deck and started prioritizing whatever you can right now? And that person that you would become, like, because right now you're making this paycheck, you're generating X amount of value a year, like whatever your salary is, and you are almost like, you could be the worst version of yourself. Terrible health, terrible emotional well-being, like not inspired, just distracted. But you're still generating whatever number this is, like 50 grand a year, 100 grand a year, whatever it is. Imagine if you got these stats up, even if you have to put a pause on your money for a short period of time, and you get that emotional well-being, you get your health right, you get your routine and your discipline, you get the money. It's unreasonable to become this amazing version of yourself and generate less value
that person who didn't have any of that. No, I think that's a really good way to put it. Like, and this is my theory, and this is part of the reason we started this podcast, and part of the reason we're doing what we do, is I feel like you and I just want to prove that point so bad. Like,
because people, if you like, people will like we can say like, oh, like health and emotions and relationships, and people are like, yeah, but in the back of everyone's mind is still how much money is that, like
how much money am I going to get paid?
Exactly.
It's you're just thinking about, and it's natural, it's our survival instinct. It makes sense, but it's counterintuitive. So the thing is, you think, oh, to get money, I need to make money. And that's how people typically look at making money. If I want to make more money, I just have to make more money. Yes, but getting there is going to look a lot different than you think it does. Because however you're thinking about making money right now, and if you're not rich by whatever standard you require, something's not working in that formula. Okay. So the people who have the money, and I think they try to tell us, and everyone's like, no, that's not true. That's just made up. There's no way that can be possible, or like, that's just BS. But it's like, how you actually get the wealth or the money that you're looking for is through these other random things that you think are not related to the actual creation of it.
And so, like, I guess all that to say is, like, I feel like no one will really believe us until it's like works. Until it's like you with freelance, where you're making like 2 to 3 times more as a freelancer than you were in corporate. And so, like, now us doing what we do now, making even more than we were making before, like until we get to that point, like I feel like there's always going to be those naysayers, those doubters. And I feel like that's a motivating force.
Yes.
Because it's like, I don't know, it's just like the doubt, other people's doubt is like fuel for me. Or
it is.
Or like if people, like one of the worst things you can do, most dangerous things you could do is underestimate us. Like whenever I feel like someone underestimates me, I'm like, no problem.
Merry Christmas. Merry fucking Christmas. Thank you. No, literally.
And then
that will
that
push.
Is just a driving force.
I've heard some other people say this too, because I'm like, is this just me? Like, why am I so sick and twisted? But if somebody underestimates me, cool. Got it. I'm good. Like, thank you. Actually, you just gave me fuel for another fucking 365 days. Like, I'm just like, I will die proving you wrong. Yeah. And I don't know what that is, but it's not even just that. I truly believe this. And yes, we haven't shown it physically, but I think by focusing on your health, your mindset, you're like focusing on what matters to you, what you value, what is aligned. I swear, I feel like that is the secret to making all the money in the world, like whatever you want to make. And for example, like with freelance, that was still, that wasn't 100% aligned, but it was a lot more aligned than corporate. Yeah. And literally in 6 months, and I think this is where I learned just like the baby steps of making more money, because I always thought to make 6 figures, which is now becoming like a normal income. Back then it was kind of like, whoa, you know, I used to be like, that just doesn't happen until you're like 45 and you're like a VP level. Like that just doesn't work. And at 22 or 23, going from like making 60 grand a year to like, when I tallied up like my whole year, it was like 120 grand from freelancing clients. And like, I wasn't even working the entire year, like full time. Like it was like a lot more laid back, felt so much more natural. It was a lot easier for me. I was just like,
you like the work better.
I like the work better. It was a lot more aligned. Like I was just like, oh, like making money doesn't have to be this hard, impossible task if you're doing what's aligned and what matters to you. And you're matching your skills and your talents with what you like to do. And so I just was like, that makes so much more sense now. And it really changed my whole perspective on money and making money, because I was like, it's not hard. There's something I'm missing. And I think that's what we're kind of like, we always remind ourselves of now. It's like making the first million and like making your first 500,000 or whatever. It's like, it's hard, but it's hard only because you're missing something. There's just one thing you're missing. It's not that it's this like linear hard grind, because I went from making that like half of my income to, or I went from making that 60,000 to like that 100,000 in like 6 months. And it was just a switch. It was something mentally and physically. Like first it happened with the mental, then it was like, oh, physical. And then you just switch and then it happens. It was fast. It was super fast. And in that year, I changed my whole income. It's not linear.
It's like flat, but then some critical piece of information comes through the window and you're like, oh shit. And it jumps up.
Because once you figure it out, and I just figured out, I was like, oh, like I have these skills that people need. I can put my own price tag on it. This is in demand right now. It just works out. But, you know, of course, like there's years before that of like learning and doing whatever. But it came from me listening to my curiosity. And I think that's the main thing. It's like there are things that you have a talent right now that people are willing to pay for. You're not listening to your talent. So you're not even practicing your talent. And then you're not looking for people to give an exchange that with, because you're not listening to yourself. You're not even doing it. You're not in the field. You're not showing up as that person. And a great example
might be your friend.
Oh my God. I want to save that. Like,
okay, let's save it for later.
So, I'm sure this will be out later, but yeah. If you follow our Son account, which is my new brand, Sans Raison, which is, it's without reason in French. I'm going to be talking about all types of stories like this. So just stay tuned and follow us and join the newsletter, because there's going to be lots of freebies and lots of cool, inspiring motivation to keep going if you're doing something like this. But I just feel like following, you can fill in the blank, passions, curiosity, freedoms, excitement, there's never a bad there's never a bad outcome or ending to these things, because that's where making money feels natural, because something that is natural to you is in demand. You just have to either be there at the right time, or you just need to develop it a little bit more to where it is in demand at some point, and you just like, it just matches up with the market. So I feel like, going back to the freelance thing, I feel like I kept saying this to my friends. I was like, guys, like, I'm starting to notice a pattern here. I'm like cracking a code. Like, you just have to like sell your services, because the services that I wasn't even working professionally in marketing.
Yeah.
Like, I was just doing marketing on my free time, and I made it into a 6-figure income. So I kept telling my friends who were actually skilled at this stuff, like who actually were working in their field.
Right.
I was like, just freelance your stuff. You can put whatever price you want. Like, everyone kept complaining about the job market in 2020. Oh my God. Even in 2021, everyone's like, oh, there's no jobs or whatever. I'm like, guys, I have endless amounts of work. Like, I'm seeing an abundance of clients. Right. And it's just because I was putting myself in the right spot. Yeah. And I kept telling everyone this, and no one was listening to me. And I'm like, okay, I guess they don't want it. That's why I feel on a micro level, this is how successful people feel. They're trying to tell you like, hey, this is what you got to do. And no one's listening, because my friends were like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like, I don't know what didn't click. Like, I'm only starting to now hear my friends talk about freelancing. And I'm like, guys, I've been saying this since 2020. Like, what are we doing? And they're like, oh yeah, you made that much. And I'm like, yes, I was trying to tell you. Like, I was having $10,000 months. I had never seen money like that before. So anyway, the point is, I feel like right now we're trying to work into that, like, we're doing what we love and we're getting paid. And I feel like obviously people just pay attention to money and people who make money. So that would be nice, just to show people like, okay, it works. But the money at this point is just a bonus. Like, I'm getting to do what I like to do. And if you need me to make money to show you that this is real, whatever, right? I just want you to pay attention to like, do what you love. It feels so much better. And being aligned is so much more worth it. Even if you make $0, to be honest, your entire life, being aligned is so much more worth it, even for your health, for your kids, for your friends, than working a job or doing something you hate and just feeling awful your whole life. Like, arguably without the money, it's that much more worth it. Because when you're aligned, you don't need that much money. Yeah, you really don't. Like us right now, I never thought I'd be able.
Out less, you're shopping less. We're basically not drinking.
And old me would look at this life and be like, oh, that sucks. But like, if I looked at how I felt, I'd be like, oh, that's new.
Yeah, and I think this happened recently. Like when I just paid my credit card bills, I was looking at the statements and I'm like, whoa, we spent like no money this month. And it's because we've just been eating at home, like grocery shopping. And it's like, we spent like four times less on like food. Oh, wow. Because we didn't eat out. Like in December, I think like it was like $2,000 like on the credit card I used for groceries. And then like this past time, it was like $600 to $800. It was something like that. So wow. Maybe like
just from eating out.
Yeah, because in December we were eating out a lot. We were going out like a lot because of the holidays and stuff.
Here's a question: did you feel better in December, or do you feel better now?
I feel better now.
See, isn't that crazy?
I don't like overeating, and I don't like drinking too much either, because I just get lethargic. But like now, I feel good. Like I'm losing weight. I feel healthy. My mind is sharper. I'm getting more things done. I'm getting positive feedback.
I know.
From like all the different things I'm working on.
You know guys, I know that's such a small example, but if that's not a testimony, I don't know what is. Like, and I agree 1,000%. I feel so much better this month than December. In December, we had all the things around us. Everything on paper probably sounded more fun in December, but I felt heavy and just tired and fuzzy. I felt so unclear. But now I feel like even going home for like a few days, like going to Houston where my parents live, I just felt like after coming back, I got sick. I feel like out of my workout routine. And I'm not even like a gym bro. Don't get me confused with somebody who's like, raw, let's work out and like hustle, baby. Like, I'm not that person. And I feel better now doing all that shit. I guess they're right about something. You know, like I feel just so much better in this bubble. Like, so it's like you're spending a lot of money, but like it's like coping. That's what I was realizing whenever I was looking back at my past.
And you were telling me that like when you were freelancing, like you were spending less actually, even though you were making more, because when you were working corporate, like, you had to do all these things to like cope with like just not liking what you did all day.
Exactly. Yeah, you know, I feel like my spending habits are like a sign
of your like mental,
of my mental. I really do, because I like shopping. I will always like shopping. But when I was in corporate, I was spending a lot. I don't know. I don't even know what I was spending, but I was spending a lot. I never put that together until now. But yeah, I guess that's like, if I'm spending a lot, that means I'm unfulfilled. Something's not fulfilled 100%. So I just wanted to like wrap it up by saying like there is a consequence of misalignment. And to your point, it's usually in the things that you can't see, like in your health or in your mindset or your attention or your focus, all of these little things. And sometimes it's hard to see when you're in it. Because when I was in it, when I was freelancing, when I was in corporate at the time, it felt normal. Like it didn't feel like, oh, I'm so tired. It's only now that I'm out of it that I see like, oh, there's a whole other life. So sometimes I want to bring this up because sometimes it's hard to see like, what do I hate about my life? Because it seems all normal to you.
You're used to it.
You're used to it. But I think if you are in that situation where you know something's not right, but everything around you seems normal, like it doesn't seem like that bad. One of my favorite approaches is exposure therapy, because I think this is where you start seeing gaps. And it wasn't until I was watching those people that I really like loved their life. They were living their dream life, that I was like, wait a minute, there's something different that they have that I don't have. And I want it. I mean, if you see people's life and you don't want it, whatever, that's not your dream life. But if you see people or you see things or you see industries or projects that you're just like, I'm kind of curious, like something's interesting, is drawing me towards this thing, and you observe it enough that you start identifying the gap, that's a sign. There wouldn't be a gap if there wasn't some potential for you to fill in there. You know, I didn't look at people with like, luxury cars and be like, oh yeah, like I felt nothing. So that's not my zone of genius, right? But when I saw influencers, when I saw content creators, when I saw people starting brands, I was like, ooh, like that's interesting. And then that's where I started to see there was a creative gap between where I was and where they are. And I feel like that can help you start, because you always, like we said, if you don't have a foundation, if you don't have the vision, identifying the problem, it's always the first step. And if you don't identify the problem, you don't have one. So I would start exposing yourself to things that you're interested in, which is follow your curiosity, follow your passion, because when you see it and you don't have it, you're going to do anything to close that gap. And it might seem unnecessary at first, but the closer you get to it, the more necessary it will become. I promise. And then that unnecessary thing, when you pass it and you achieve it, you're going to be like, thank God I did that, because look at how my life used to be. You know what I mean? So I think that's a little tip.
You know, another version of that is like, so you're saying kind of start looking at things that are interesting to you. And if you're like drawn toward it, like that might be some version of your dream life or some aspects of your dream life are in there. Another version of that I actually heard from Nassim Taleb. He's an author. He was on the Tim Ferriss podcast. He was talking about this. He said for him, he would see what he was envious of. And he was always envious of people that were very like well-read, very scholarly, very like, you know, intellectual. And he would always envy that. And he was just like this trader, you know, he's like working on Wall Street and he always envied that in people. And so that's kind of what drove him to start becoming an author. And now he's like a philosopher basically. And so that's how he knew where he wanted to go, like what he was envying in other people. So that's like another version. Like you could be drawn toward it, but you could also be like angry at that person.
Totally.
You know, it's they have my dream life and I'm like upset about it.
The more I followed this curiosity, I think it's like the next step, honestly. The more I followed this, like, I mean, I watch creators all the time. I was always on social media, TikTok. Like I was I was always in that zone.
Yeah.
And so the more I was like, oh, this is fun, I like this is good to know, it was more like, oh, that's interesting that they have that, or, oh, I wish I could have, like, it started to the envy started to develop.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that just happens when you put yourself in the right spots. Now you can become envious of the wrong things if you're misaligned.
Yeah.
But if you are following what is truly interesting to you, I'm talking about you would do this for free. You find yourself doing it on your free time. You find yourself mindlessly thinking about it. If those things, if you expose yourself to it enough, you will start to become envious of the right people. Mm-hmm. And it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing, because now don't take that into like, let me try to go against these people and hate. Like, it's not about the people. It's just
about you.
It's about you. That feeling that you're feeling is a sign. It's a signal that's like, you see this for your life.
Yep.
You see something about what they have as a potential for you. Mm-hmm. So you need to do something to close that gap, or you're just going to keep feeling that envy. Yeah. It's just going to keep, and no one likes feeling that for a long period of time, I think. So yeah, I think it's like a trick that I've done my whole life. It's just kind of like taking the leap. Mm-hmm. It's a version of taking the leap that I think is easier and more accessible for everyone. So we have some homework, and this one hopefully should be pretty easy. Actually, might feel good. Might feel like it liberates you. I think just say no to one thing on your calendar that doesn't make you feel aligned. Just one. Because sometimes you have to also see the benefits of something to be like, oh yeah. I don't like that thing, or it doesn't match, doesn't fit with me. For some of us overachievers, we'll say no to a job. I'm just kidding. But
it's possible.
But just say no to one thing, even if it's a hangout, even if it's a task that you don't want to do, or like, and I'm not talking about like, I have to clean my house, right. Like, you should say yes to that, even because someone asked, or my best friend asked me about this, like for the hell yes test. She's just like, well, you're not going to feel like hell yes towards everything. And I'm like, okay, fair. Like if you have homework, you're not going to be like, hell yeah. Like, unless you are. Okay. But would you say hell yes to being somebody with a degree? I would say if that's a yes for you, then the homework is a means to an end. Okay. So I'm not saying like or
a clean house,
that's something you want. I wouldn't say just like, oh, that's not aligned with me right now, so I'm not going to do it. Because technically having a clean house is aligned to your goals in that situation. But I would say like something that you just feel like, I could give or take this. Like, honestly, the things you feel the most indifferent about, get that out. That is noise.
Even if it's like saying no to like watching TV, or like watching Netflix, or eating out, or
it feels like a coping mechanism,
or not going to the gym, like saying no to that.
Exactly. Like, I feel like there's something, even me, there's something on my calendar that's kind of like, it's okay. And just say no. Like, I feel like saying no is sometimes in a certain situation more abundant than saying yes. Like if you watch the movie Yes Man, he needed to say yes more because he was saying no too much. Yeah. But a lot of times we're saying yes way too much.
And so this is actually something from Steve Jobs. He said, like, I don't remember the exact like context and phrasing of it all, but the essential idea was like the success of Apple wasn't so much of like what they said yes to, but what they were saying no to, because like they had so many good ideas that they had to say no to. Yeah. And having that discipline to say no to a good opportunity. So maybe that's like a slightly different version of this, but it's again like the importance of being able to say no.
Yeah, make decisions and quitting your way to success, which I feel like that was one of our past episodes or clips. Like that's so underrated. Like quitting things. You don't need to be burnt out and tired to say no. You can just say no because you're like, that doesn't match. Why would I spend my precious time doing something that doesn't match, or I'm unsure of what value it brings to me? Yeah. You wouldn't pay for something that you're unsure what value you're getting. So why would you pay your time in something that you're unsure what you're getting from that situation? So it's like, it's basically encouraging you to be intentional about your time, and that is a form of payment. So don't waste your money in the situation most precious resource on something that doesn't benefit you or add value to your life. So
I love it.
Thank you.
I I was just gonna move the mic.
That's awkward. Thanks, guys. See you next time.